to the Mox Marine YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace a power steering pump on a MPI 5.0 liter MPI engine. It probably applies to 4.3s and 5.7s also. I'm pretty sure it applies to all of them. So the dilemma is this customer's power steering pump, or actually the entire motor, got submerged in water. And so I'm replacing the power steering pump because the old one got rusted internally pretty bad. So there's a trick, I wouldn't say a trick, but there's certain features of the power steering pump that you have to have in order for it to fit. So the first feature that I'm going to discuss, by the way, this is a brand new power steering pump. The most important feature is the return line right there on the side, the one that's coming off with a little black cap on the end of it there. That must come off the side on the bottom. The bottom, I guess, if you're in front of the motor, the bottom right. And the reason is it has to clear this bracket here. If you have a return coming out of the back of the middle of the pump, it'll hit that plate and it won't fit. So the first criteria is your return must be coming out the bottom. And it doesn't necessarily have to turn down into the left. It could come out to the right, but it's okay. It's actually a pretty cool feature that it turns out to the left. All right. The second feature that you have to have is these two studs. Your new pump has to have two studs because it mounts on that hole and that hole. A lot of pumps that you see will not have the lower stud. They won't even have a hole in the cover for it, or I guess the reservoir. So you must have the two studs in order to properly mount it. That's the second feature. The third feature is underneath that blue plug there is a fitting that does not match the hose that came on this boat. The fitting that came on the boat is called a 16 millimeter Saginaw fitting. It has an O-ring on it, and that's what you typically find in power steering systems. This particular fitting is an inverse flare that was used on the older hoses. But I'm going to show you a trick. This particular pump has the inverted flare, but I'm going to show you a trick in this video how to overcome that. So those are the three features that you need to watch out for when you buy a new power steering pump. So the model number that I bought is a Master Pro 732-2137, and this is bought at O'Reilly, and I will have to put in the description what this basically what it's supposed to come off of. This is an automotive pump, and I'll have to put in the description what I looked this up under. I can't remember what it was, but one of the things I'm not too proud about or too happy about is this right here. The way things are going in the world, I try not to buy from China if I can help it at all. But they're so prolific in this country, you almost can't buy anything without buying from China. But if I'm cognizant of it and I know I'm having an option, I'm not going to buy from China right now. So let's get back to the topic at hand. So I'm about to put this power steering pump on, and to put it on, there's a spacer. The spacer here goes on between the pump and this bottom hole right here, because the back of the pump is not level all the way across. So you need the spacer in here to make it install it level. So I'm about to do that. Also, once I get the pump on, I'm going to take out that fitting. I was telling you it's the wrong fitting, and I'm going to replace what you do is you take the fitting off the old pump. If it had a Saginaw fitting, you take that off that pump and swap it out to this pump, the new pump. And you're supposed to do that because I believe I've read online that the pressure differences on the pumps are different from automotive to marine use. But if you have a marine power steering pump and you take the same pressure regulator out the back of that, you should be safe. Okay, continuing with the video on installing this power steering pump, I ran into a couple of snags. So the first snag I ran into was that the new power steering pump there on the table had studs in the back. These are, by the way, they're 3/8. I thought they were metric, but they're not. They're 3/8/16 standard SE bolts, and it had these studs, and these studs are not long enough to go from the go through the coupler and then into this plate. So I had to go buy bolts, and I believe I bought I've got a 1-inch bolt for the short one, and I believe this is a 1.5. I'll check that and leave it in the comment. If it's different, I'll leave it in the description. But I've got two extra bolts, or 2 bolts instead of studs, because I couldn't find automotive studs any longer to fit in this power steering pump. So that was the first snag. The other snag is before you but as I was saying in the video before, you take this is your pressure regulating valve out of the back of your power steering pump. And you need to take that out. And by the way, it uses a socket. The socket size is, let's see what this is, 1 inch. So it takes a 1 inch socket to get this out of the back of the power steering pump. So you need to take that out of your pump before you dismount it, because it's a really pain in the butt to get it out unless it's mounted solid somewhere. And it just makes more sense to take it out before you unmount the power steering pump. So anyway, at this time I'm going to remount the new power steering pump, and then put the pressure regulating valve from the old power steering pump, which is down there in the box, and put that on the new power steering pump, and then bolt it up. All right, to wrap up the video on installing a new power steering pump, I've got the new pump mounted to the bracket. This top bolt here is 1 inch. The one on the bottom right down there is a 1 1/4 inch bolt. They're both 3/8/16, and that's what it took to hold this pump in instead of using studs. I went ahead and put the pressure regulating valve in, screwed it in a little bit before I mounted it, just keep the fluid from pouring out of it. And then once I got it mounted, I put a socket on it and tightened it up more, probably to about 25, 30 foot-pounds. So that's in. Next thing I have to do is there's a bracket that goes on the front of this power steering pump. That's right here, and it mounts somewhere right about there, and it goes over, and it attaches to the serpentine belt tensioner pulley bracket right about here, and I'll show that later when I put that on. And then the final thing we have to do is reattach the power steering pulley, which is here, and it goes on this shaft. At first I didn't think it would line up, it's way out in front, but the actual hub is recessed inside here, so it actually sits back like this, further back here. So it does line up once you do that. So to install the pulley, I use a kit called it's 57031. It's an OEM power steering pulley kit remover and installer, but it removes and installs it. And again, it's 57031. And you use that to pull it. This is a friction press fit, and used to pull it off and to install it. Do not hammer it on. So last thing I want to say is so the part number of the old pump was 26007703. I've checked, I've got 3.0 in my shop. I've got a 5.0, which I'm working on now. I've got 5.7s, and I just worked on a 4.3 not too long ago. They all are using the same exact part number. So what that tells me is that all of them have the same, since they have the same part number, I'm going to guess they all have the same pressure regulating valve. So the bottom line is what I've just showed you. This pump is probably a universal fit for the 3.0, 4.3, 5.0, and the 5.7. Oh, and incidentally, I've also got a 6.2 liter, what do you call it? I think it's a Magnum or something. It's a 6.2 liter MPI engine, and it also uses the same part number power steering pump. So apparently they all use the same power steering pump. So, but again, if you buy a brand new car, truck, power steering pump, I would swap out the regulator just to be on the safe side. So that's it. Not a whole lot more to say about the new power steering pump, but it did take me a little bit of effort to find it, but I found it, got the right return and everything. So now I have to buy a cap for it. It did not come with a new cap. They're a dime a dozen at any auto parts store. I think about $3 or $4. So I'll pick one of those up tomorrow. But the pump's mounted. Calling it a night. Been here working quite a while, so we're gonna head out of here. Please subscribe to my channel if you don't already, and thanks for watching.